There was a time when wars were waged over oil. Today, is data the new oil? And if so, what are we doing to protect this asset? These are questions being asked by the individuals who launched the Save Our Privacy project. It's a community project started with a group of about 10 lawyers and 9 organizations and has created a bill called the Indian Privacy Code 2018. This is a reference point to understand how to define privacy and protect data. Now, this bill is based on 7 privacy principles, and we spoke with 2 experts to understand what these are.
Principle 1 says that privacy and data protection need to treat the individual as the focus of their attention. The individual needs to be the foundation upon which any privacy law or data protection chapter is built.
Having the ability of telling the person who holds your data, please correct it, please delete it. I want to take this data and I want to go to another service. I want to take my emails from X provider to Y provider. There are no laws which consider and safeguard your rights as an individual.
Principle 2 talks about the fact that data protection needs to be built upon protecting your privacy.
This protection has been stated clearly and to a very great extent in depth by a committee of experts in 2011 under the chairmanship of Justice A.P. Shah. He listed 9 privacy principles, which included notice, that we are told what is being taken away from us when data is being gathered. Choice, we get an option to actually refuse, and we get real alternatives to saying no, we do not want to part with our data. So for instance, if the government says that to avail this service you need to show X ID for information about your name, date of birth and where you come from, but there's also another B government ID which also has a name, age and these address details, we should be able to say that I don't have the ID that you asked for, but all this information is also in this other ID.
Principle 3 recognizes the simple reality that you need someone whom you can go to, a referee as such.
For instance, people say that, hey, technology will keep on changing. How will a law take care of that? Well, if you have certain core principles which are built into a law, you have an expert regulatory body such as the Privacy Commission, and then you give that Privacy Commission the power to make regulations in line with the principles of, let's say, choice, consent. Then that Privacy Commission can make these kind of regulations tomorrow, day after, or even way down, let's say, down the decade.
Principle 4 recognizes the fact that the reality of our country, that the government, whether it be the union government, the state government, public sector banks, public sector entities, public agencies, are one of the largest data collectors.
This is important because the government today, with the Digital India mission, provides a lot of services to us. It's also because the government holds a lot of power over us. It has the power of policing, it has the power of taxation, it has a lot of powers. So there also needs to be accountability, because when providing all these services, it's also gathering a lot of our personal data. And any privacy law should apply to the government as well. We have seen heartbreaking examples of how the midday meal schemes are being prevented from being delivered to people, for instance.
Principle 5 also recognizes another reality, that surveillance takes place, sometimes for legitimate purposes, very often not necessarily for legitimate purposes. And that's a lesson that history has taught us.
We live in a world where every activity that we do generates some kind of personal data. This kind of information shouldn't be turned into a tool for surveillance and for interception for governments or for private actors. Even if you want to catch a terrorist, you shouldn't go out and look up the emails of all people in this country. It has to be there for a specific defined individual, and it has to proceed on the basis of certain information.
Principle 6 talks about the fact that we need to not just think about protecting data, but about furthering our right to information.
A good way to bring accountability to government and power back to ourselves historically and recently has been the Right to Information Act. So the Right to Information Act needs to be protected, and privacy and data protection should not be used to dilute it, because in the end, the Right to Protection Act and the privacy law are both about returning power back to us as citizens and bringing greater accountability to government and actors who hold power over us.
Principle 7 also recognizes another reality of where we are today, which is in the age of a global open internet, data flows across borders. That does not mean that you can't protect people.
We are interconnected through the internet, and data travels through several jurisdictions. So it's only natural that a modern data protection law, a privacy code, needs to be modern as well and should recognize these technical realities of our world.
From Edward Snowden's expose on mass surveillance to the leaking of Aadhaar information, there have been many instances of your data being accessed without your permission. And this most certainly calls for a data protection bill, a set of rules that tell all concerned parties what data can be collected from you and where to draw the line.